Hi everyone, and also, welcome to my little workshop here. I'm excited to be here. My goodness, I don't think I've ever met anyone from Puerto Rico before, let alone Trinidad. So I'm excited to meet you guys as well. So and thank you to everyone for being here this evening. So let me start off with a question to you guys. Let me do this. It's the first time that I've used this virtual background thing, so do excuse the haphazard nature of what this might be. So anyway, I'm going to start off with a question. So how many of you, on a scale of 1 to 5, so 1 being terrible and 5 being excellent, how many of you believe that you are more productive at the moment working from home than you were in the office? All of us are working from home. And what I'd like you to do is actually spend a few minutes thinking about this and popping it into the chat box, the chat window here. So you put a scale of 1 to 5, it'd be really great to see where everyone's at the moment. Goodness, cool. We've got some, okay. We've got a bit of a few 4s in there. That's pretty good. 5 was more productive, yes. Okay, cool. So we've got a mixed bag, but basically what I want to do over the next sort of 20 minutes is take you through some of the things that I've been doing to keep me productive working from home. So I've been able, since lockdown started back in March, able to actually successfully launch my business and get into a position where I'm successfully now working solely on my business and also getting clients from all different walks of life to come and work with me. So I'd like to just share some of the insights that I've been, or tricks and things that I've been using over the last few months to keep me productive. And it's basically top 3 tips. Now, there's no science, there's no stats behind it. It's purely stuff that I've been using. So yeah, it's just a little snippet of that. So the first thing that I'd like to show you is this you. All of us are working from home. How many of you have picked up your laptop, plonked it on your bed, and just started working as soon as you wake up? And that's fine if you're doing that. It was a novelty that we've a bit of a novelty that's become a bit of a norm. But how many of you are doing this, and how many of you are realizing that is that working from home or is actually living at work? Doing this in the first few weeks is how, are you making sure that you're getting up, you're walking around? How many of you are forgetting to have lunch, working through into the night? So my first tip is actually to show up for work. So a bit of a story here for you. So when I first started working from home, I was about 21, 22, and I was living at home with my parents. And I remember, my first week or something of working from home, I plonked my laptop down. I was in my pajamas working on the dining room table. And I remember my dad coming downstairs and saying, he was about to go to work. And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm working from home, Dad. That's what I'm doing." And he looked at me and he said, "This is not working from home. You're in your pajamas. You can't possibly be in the right mindset to go and work, to be working from home. So get up and get dressed." That is my first piece of advice, because there's a ritualist nature to how we set ourselves into the right mindset for actually working, for going to work. We get up, we have a shower, we brush our teeth, we get on the train, we commute in, we have little things that we do, go and grab a coffee before we go up to the office. And all of those things are keeping our minds ready to say, okay, cool, I'm working from home, I'm working. I'm getting my mind ready to start that process. And if you're just picking yourself up and you're staying in bed and you're keeping in your pajamas, I'm not 100% sure that you're necessarily doing the best you can to set your mind right for that day. So my first thing that I always do is get up, get dressed. I actually just recently started with a client. I even went shopping. I got some new clothes just to sit in my home and do kind of conference calls. But yes, that's my first piece of advice: get up and get dressed. The next thing is how many of you is this? So you probably haven't got up. You're in your PJs and you're sitting there with your cameras off on conference calls. And when someone calls you, they're, "Oh, hey, do you want to catch up? Do you want to have a quick one-on-one?" You get on the one-on-one and you don't turn your camera on. The picture here of this, where you see the the conference call here, that's actually a conference call that I had this morning with a client that I'm working on. So all of them, that's 6 people. There was actually 15 people in that call, all with their cameras off. And I just, for me, when you're speaking to people with their cameras off, in my mind, it's the same as speaking to somebody with their back turned. So there's something to be said for keeping your camera turned on. And if obviously you've got up and got dressed, then there's no excuse. So my next piece of advice is show up for your team, put your cameras on. This is actually a team that I'm working in at the moment, a software development team. So all of these people are in my team. And every day we have a stand-up meeting and we keep our cameras on. And this is actually a meeting that we have every Friday, a theme meeting. And this was favorite movies. I don't know whether you can guess some of the movies. I'm here, that's me over there. I had a box of chocolates, so it was Forrest Gump. But basically, the idea is that we take the time every day to connect with each other. And this team is actually, in the last 8 weeks, we've formed two of these people in this team are actually in completely different countries. We've never met each other. One's in Portugal, one's in Costa Rica. But we've managed to deliver to the client in 8 weeks. And I'm not saying that's purely because we keep our cameras turned on, but it builds trust, it builds rapport, and it builds relationships. And that is what builds productivity in teams, being able to work together. So please turn your cameras on. And then my next thing is, how many of this at the moment is you as well? So just completely overwhelmed, completely overworked, and just a little bit anxious about what's going on. And I think what I'm trying to reflect here is that we're in a really strange, difficult time. Everyone's talking about uncertain times, and it's important to acknowledge these feelings as well. And it's important to realize that no amount of sort of online quizzing or video virtual drinks with your family is going to stop us from feeling that way. So my final tip is to take time in your day to show up for yourself, and it's to take time to pause and to breathe. And I know that some people have kids and some people find this difficult, but there's always time in the day that you can take for yourself to really acknowledge the feelings that you're feeling and say, okay, where am I today? And what am I feeling? What am I anxious about? And what that does is bring your mind into center and realize all the things that you can control, that are within your control, and all of the external factors which are out of your control. And people talk about mindfulness and keeping centered and present, but this has really, really helped me over the last few months. Have been in a difficult consulting position, taking time to wake up every morning and take a few minutes just sort of center myself before I do anything. And what I'd like to really do is take this opportunity to give you a bit of a mantra as to what it is that I do. So this mantra, which I'll read out to you a bit in a second, but that's taken from a meditation, loving kindness meditation, which is in the Buddhist religion. And what it says is, may I be free from anger, may I be free from ill will, and may I be happy and peaceful. Now the mantra actually extends. It says you can, the next part of it is, may my mother be free from anger, may my father be free from anger. And you can say these lines and you can extend that love and kindness out to whoever you want to. But what I always take from this particular meditation is that the first person that you always say, or you always extend love and kindness to, is yourself. So you start with myself. May I be free from anger, may I be free from ill will, and may I be happy and peaceful. And what I do is, or try to do for at least a few moments a day, is repeat that stanza 3 times. So if you will allow me to enter this into your practice, it would be great to leave you guys in a small, if you're going to take a moment today, it would be cool to do it now. But can I invite you all to shut your eyes and take a deep breath in and out? And then just think to yourself, may I be free from anger? May I be free from ill will. May I be happy and peaceful. Okay, and that was my tips. You can open your eyes now, guys. So yeah, for me, the 3 tips that I can say that have kept me productive and resilient over the last few months: show up for work, get up and get dressed. Show up for your team, even if you're the only person on that conference call with your face on the screen. Do it, because you can be leaders in this and actually, be the person who's trying to build that rapport within your team. And then finally, show up for yourself. Take time every day, even if it's a couple of minutes, just to center yourself and breathe. Even if it's just taking a few deep breaths in and out, just make sure that that is time that you're giving to yourself and allowing yourself to be kind to yourself. So that's me. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, if you do have a question, I think well, just put hands up, Nish, and can you see everybody, or actually you might have to turn off your screen share so you can see.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, anyone got a question? Put your hands up, and Nish will get to you. I've got one. If you did that meditation thing at the end, so. If people are maybe not familiar with getting involved with meditation, is it something that's hard to get started with, would you say? Because I've never done it before, but I'd just be interested to know a bit more about that.
So it isn't easy to get involved in straight away, because often what I find is people whoever's asked me what I do with meditation, I always say that it's like anything. It's kind of like building muscle. So when you first go to the gym, you pick up a weight and it's a 5 kilo weight and you're like, oh, that's really difficult. But then you don't give up, right? You pick it up again the next week, you pick it up again the next week, and you do it until you can pick up the 6 kilogram weight and the 7 kilogram weight. And what I'd say is that if you can sit with yourself, even for a minute, just for a moment, take 1 minute, to try and steady your mind. And then the next day, try and sit for 2 minutes. And people often give up saying, oh, I can't do meditation. My mind just wanders too much. But that's actually part of it. Part of the first steps of meditation is allowing yourself to your mind to wander. And maybe that day you sit there for 2 minutes and you're only thinking about your to-do list. But then at least okay, cool, I'm anxious about what I need to do today. So I can tick off that, I can do my to-do list and I can finish it. And the next day you're thinking about something else, and then you can focus in on that particular energy. So what I'd say is that with anything, it sort of takes a little bit of practice, but you shouldn't beat yourself up if you find it difficult. I think the best things in life are probably the most difficult to come by. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Apparently, so you can use the reactions. There isn't a raise hands, but anybody, maybe just Shipriya, maybe just raise your actual hand.
Thank you so much, Dan. Hi, Nish. I think the tips have been fabulous and it's very, very helpful. I have just one question. I come from a different part of the country where we actually don't have a bifurcation of work time versus me time or the personal time. And a lot of times when you're alone, you have to manage your work and your household chores and everything. So do you have any specific tips in which we can manage our work better during weekdays?
So this is an interesting one, because I'm a huge believer in just doing things when you want to do them. So for example, I know that from probably 8:30 till 12:30, I'm pretty focused. And then I'll have lunch and then my mind starts wandering. And if, for example, I decide to go and put my washing in at 1 o'clock instead of going back to work after lunch, I'll just do it. And then maybe make up the hours somewhere else, because, it's basically down to the work that you have to do. If you don't have 8 hours of work to do in a day, then break it up. And if you're sitting at your desk and the only thing that you're thinking of is putting the washing in, it's not hugely productive time. So work when you have that moment to work and focus. If you want to go put your washing in, if you want to go do your grocery shop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go and do that as well, because that just finishes that task and moves your center back into what you need to be doing. So I'm not a huge advocate of getting up at sort of 8:30 sitting at your desk till 5:30 to make sure that you're kind of feigning a productive working day. I'm much more an advocate of working at the times that you know that you're being productive. So I know, for example, for me over the last 8 months, it's been 8:30 till 12:30, and then after lunch, probably about 2 o'clock, I pick everything back up again. And then I might do a couple of hours in the evening after dinner. So that's just how I've learned to understand when my mind is concentrated. And similarly for everyone else, it could be the same. It could be that you're more of a morning person, you want to get up early, you want to stay up a bit late. So that's what I would say. Manage your work. Your chores still have to be done. So, and this gives us the opportunity to know when we can do them best. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat here, Nish, from Toby. It says, how can we help people see Toastmasters meetings, or I suppose anything that's not work, as different from work meetings? Because obviously people are starting to get zoomed out, and they might have a day of work meetings, and then Toastmasters or whatever it is in the evening might just feel like a bit much. Have you got any advice on that?
I think that, and maybe I'm being a little bit biased, but our Toastmasters meetings that we do as society speakers are pretty cool in that, there's often a theme, and you come to the kind of Toastmasters meeting with a different mindset. You're sitting there going, oh, cool, I'm here to sort of listen to speeches or put a holiday theme on or whatever it is. It's just creating that sense of fun outside of a normal work meeting is just you sitting there with your screen on and talking about work stuff. But a Toastmasters meeting, you could start doing themes. You could start funny hat day, or we did favorite movies in my team the other day. But yeah, I'd say that with the Toastmasters meetings, you can just introduce a different environment, I suppose. For me, I always do the Toastmasters meeting in my living room, for example, so I can pretend that I'm not at work. I'm in my office right now, but usually when I'm doing the Toastmasters meetings, I'll have a glass of gin, as Dan knows, and and a gin and tonic, and I'm sitting in my living room just to make it more fun. So yeah, it's just switching people's thought processes and how they actually interact. So yeah, maybe that might be an idea.
Yeah, I suppose that move, just a small thing like moving, is quite important, isn't it, to differentiate between them. If anyone else wants to put their hand up or put a question in the chat. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask which one you think is the most important of the three. Your 3 tips. I think go on.
If do you know what? So I know that people won't necessarily get into the meditation thing. They won't necessarily want to kind of change the fact that they're working in their pajamas. The only thing, if you take nothing else away, is keep your cameras on. And I'm looking at all these people with all the cameras off right now, but I'm kidding. But for your team meetings and things like that, but that is one thing that it's second to none, having that facial that communication and facial interaction, especially if, for example, like myself, I live alone and I can get through a whole day of meetings where I've been speaking to people and I feel like I've gone and met them. In my mind, it feels like I've actually met them in person. And it's incredible how much interaction you get from just seeing people on a screen, how that affects your brain in the same way. So that's one thing I'd say. If there's nothing else you take away from this, try and keep your cameras on when you're on meetings and one-to-one meetings.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we've still got quite a few without cameras, but
I haven't managed to convince them, but it's fine.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Then, yeah, Mustafa. I'll try and turn my camera on. Okay. Essentially, you said meditation.
Yeah.
How that is similar or different from mindfulness? There's a lot of literature on mindfulness in the Western world, particularly within the therapy, within the CBT type of world. So how that is similar and different from meditation that you just mentioned?
So I wouldn't say it's hugely different, but I think mindfulness is actually easy, potentially in a practical level. Mindfulness is probably easier to practice. So mindfulness is about being present in your moment. So for example, let's just say that you're making a cup of tea, it's about sitting there with that cup of tea and genuinely stirring the tea and thinking this is what I'm doing right now. I'm stirring this tea, I'm pouring the water into the pot, I'm doing all these things. So from a practical perspective, if you're busy with children, if you're busy with, things like that, it's easier to practice from a practical point of view. Meditation is probably more about sitting with your thoughts and trying to center yourself. And I think it takes probably a little bit more, it probably demands a little bit more where you actually segregate time away to step away from people and actually segregate time out of your day to do that, which might be a bit more difficult for people. But certainly starting with mindfulness, there's all these different things that you can do. Mindful eating, that's also a really good practice where you literally take every mouthful and there's a whole school of thought where you think about what you're eating, you give thanks to the vegetables and all these different things. But and you really you try and taste the food around your palate, try and understand where the bitterness is hitting your tongue. And there's all these different things that you can do, which is, I think mindfulness actually is a good practice practically. And yeah, it's kind of one and the same, but mindfulness, I'd say, is a little bit more practically focused.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mustafa. Anybody else? We've got another minute or so if there's any other questions. No? Okay, well done, Nish. Thank you. That was really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So I think I'm due to start about past. So maybe